Hey guys, let's talk about hostels today. That seems to be the thing that people are most interested to hear about, strangely enough, whenever I tell them about our travels, is they want to know details about hostels. I don't know what idea most people have about hostels. I think they don't have any idea what to expect. So maybe I can give you guys a little bit of a tutorial on like how to choose one, what to expect, whatever. As always, just trying to be helpful, and I can tell you our experience, and maybe you can just pull some pieces of advice from that and see if it helps you at all. So we stayed in hostels the majority of the time, not every single night, because we did stay with a friend a few nights, and we did stay in like one or two hotels, but they were like budget hotels, whatever. But the majority of the time it was hostels, and really that enabled us to go as many places as we did, and to stay as long as we did, because there's no way we could have afforded to stay in hotels the whole time. I mean, we were there for 7.5 weeks. There is no way. We are not rich. And I really think that people's fear or just ignorance about hostels keeps them from being able to travel, because really hostels are there for younger people, or anybody really. I mean, there were people of all ages there, but mostly younger people. They're there for you to utilize as a means to stay more inexpensively, so you can actually see things in your lifetime and not wait until you're too old to really enjoy things, and you've saved up your entire life to stay in five-star hotels the whole time. So hostels are great. I don't know what the big deal is. Why everybody is so apprehensive and freaks out. Like even before I had actually stayed in hostels, I wasn't scared of them. I was just like, I was nothing. I had no opinion. I didn't know because I'd never been there. So I can tell you right now, most of them are pretty freaking awesome. You meet really awesome people. The atmosphere, I think, is really cool. And most of them, because it's just this like camaraderie of budget travelers, people that are trying to travel more inexpensive, and so they try to look for the really cool, like free or cheap things to do, but also really meaningful experiences, because a lot of backpackers are there to experience the culture and just see it all. Well, a lot of them are there to party too, but there's just a lot of people that are there to just explore and have adventures, and so they have their adventures to share with you, and in turn you can share yours with them, and you can learn things from each other. There's just some really fascinating people you meet. You meet some weirdos too, but they are great to tell stories about when you get home. But all in all, I just think it's a really cool experience that people should at least try out once. You do have to share facilities, yes, but if you live with people at home, you have to share a bathroom, so what's the big deal of sharing a bathroom with people you don't know, whatever. It's just a bathroom, it's not a big deal. And in hostels, there are a lot of times options to stay in like a more private room where you don't have to share with strangers, or you can even choose one that has its own bathroom. So I'll try to give you a little bit of an idea of what it looks like when you are booking a hostel, because you can use online booking sites. I used hostelworld.com the majority of the time, but I also Googled for England specifically, because I wasn't finding that many except for in the big cities. We wanted to stay like out in the more remote areas, which I think you can do this for most of the countries, but in England they had a pretty groovy website just of the more remote hostels. So I think it was like a Hosteling International or something. I can't remember, but you can just Google or ask me. I might have it written down. But most of the time I used hostelworld.com, and their site I found the most user-friendly. They've changed it a little bit since I've booked my last trip, but it's still really cool. They have really good descriptions of like how long the hostel's been open, possibly. Sometimes it says that, who runs it. The best ones are run by backpackers, because backpackers know what they would like to have when traveling, so they put all of those things into a hostel to make it just super cool. And that's usually things like really good lockers to lock up your stuff in, which are free. Backpackers make things free all the time. Like when backpackers run a hostel, there's lots of free things, which is super cool because you're traveling cheap, so free is a good price. So good places to lock up your stuff. Clean, obviously, because you want it to be clean. A really good kitchen, cool common area, lots of information, free maps, free internet, free breakfast, possibly free coffee and tea, good patio. Just those are the kinds of things that, backpackers know are really awesome to have, so they put those into hostel. So if you are reading on Hostel World and you see that it's a hostel that was created by backpackers, that's probably going to be a really good one. It's not essential for it to, be run by backpackers for it to be a good one, but it's a really helpful thing. So you look at Hostel World, you read the description, it'll tell you if it's close to sites, like sightseeing things or transit stations or not. It'll have a list of all of the amenities, if it has a guest kitchen, which if it has a kitchen that you can use, it'll say guest kitchen. If it doesn't say guest kitchen, they probably don't have a kitchen for you to use. They might have a bar with a kitchen where you can order food, but it doesn't mean you get to use the kitchen. Although sometimes they're kind of nice if you want to borrow like a cup or get some tea, whatever. Especially if you're sick, they feel sorry for you. You're like, can I have some tea? Anyway, they'll have, good ones have 24-hour reception, no curfew, no lockout, because some of them have a lockout where they make you leave during the day so they can clean it, which, means it's going to be clean, but that kind of sucks. You can't be in the hostel whatever time you want. You definitely don't want one with a curfew, because that's lame. You should be able to stay out as late as you want. That's kind of weird. But just kind of read the amenities. Some of them have, like, bike rentals, free bike rentals. There was at least one place that you could just borrow a bike from that place. There's just really neat stuff. You never know what you're going to find. Just read about it. Ones that have a variety of pictures of the hostel, not just of like one or two rooms, but have pictures of a bunch of different rooms, are really good ones. Just that's a good sign if they have a variety of pictures. If they're just taking pictures of like just all the happy people on the patio drinking their beers, or just the bathroom, maybe can we see the rest of the hostel, please? What are you trying to hide? Maybe they're not trying to hide anything. Maybe it was just somebody who wasn't good at taking pictures, but just some things to look for. It'll tell you what kinds of rooms it has, because not all hostels are exactly the same. Some hostels have like segregated rooms where it's like male female dorms, and most of the beds in hostels are twin beds, and most of them are bunk beds, and so they're like dorm style. There are mixed dorms where obviously mixed, both genders, everybody can stay there. And then there are private rooms. Now beware, the private rooms, it'll tell you how many beds are in each room, and usually like the more beds in a room, the cheaper it is to stay in that room. Not always, and it's more expensive on weekends too, just by like $1 or $2. But the private rooms, now sometimes you'll have just enough people if you're traveling in a group, because usually there's not just one bed in a private room sometimes, but usually it's like 2 to 5. It's usually an odd number, actually 3 or 5. I see a lot of those. In a private bed room, you have to pay for all the beds in there. So like there were 4 of us. If we would have chosen one with 5 beds, like that's where there were a lot of them with 5. We would have had to pay for 5 beds, even though there were only 4 of us, because it was a private room. So you're basically paying for the whole room. So just be careful when you're booking that you choose a mixed one if you're not wanting to pay for all the beds in there. Most places, like on Hostel World, you pay a deposit, and it's like 10% of what it's going to cost, however many days you're staying there, and then you pay the rest when you get there. Most places would love it if you brought them cash, but it's not required. You can even contact them ahead of time and pay for it before you get there if you just really want to have that taken care of. They have maps on there showing you where the hostel is in relation to things that you might want to see. They have directions. Sometimes the directions are not so good on how to get to the hostel once you arrive in the city. So if it's pretty detailed directions or just really clear directions, that's a good sign of a really well-run hostel as well, in my opinion, just from my experience. There are chain hostels as well. There are hostels where you'll see, like in Germany, they have the Meininger hostels. There's a whole bunch of them in various different cities. So they're all pretty much going to look the same inside, which is not a bad thing. They're still cool. But don't expect some groovy, unique hostel. But they are clean and they have all the same stuff and you know what to expect. So that's kind of nice. But then there are some hostels that are really super unique, that are just, worth the experience. You meet really cool people. Like I've said before, they have a lot of really good tips at hostels to give you about what to go and do, because the nature of it is for you to save money, right? And so they'll tell you all the cool free or cheap things to do in a city. And they'll have all these like brochures or free maps or, tours that start in your hostel, right outside the front doors. There are tours that leave every couple of hours or whatever. Just check it out. Don't be scared. Stay in a hostel. They're pretty clean. I say pretty clean because not all of the rooms are super clean. But all in all the rooms that we slept in were clean. Sometimes the bathrooms were swamps. Sometimes the kitchens were swamps, depending on if it were lazy people that didn't do their dishes. But they're pretty clean. I mean, they're not horrible places. So don't be scared and don't believe what people that have seen that stupid movie say about them, because they're really great. And I can't imagine staying in hotels now. Like, just the thought of staying in a hotel is super boring to me. Like I'll just fall asleep. It's just dumb. And to me, especially if you're going to be traveling far away where your plane ticket's expensive, and you want to get there, you're going to see the place that you're traveling to, not the chain hotel, right? You're not going to see the inside of the hotel. You're going to see, I don't know, the Parthenon, or you're going to see the Louvre, or you're going to see whatever the things are that you're going there to see. That's what your focus should be. And just, make sure that you have a clean, safe place to stay, but it doesn't have to cost $1 million. And usually, like the price range, if any of you are curious about that, the price range that we paid was, the cheapest was $11 per person per night, go Athens. And the most expensive was $26 per person per night, and that was Edinburgh, which the UK is just more expensive in general. But the average was between $15 and $20 per person per night. So if any of you are curious about that. And I would say, like, the best hostels that we stayed in, actually Vienna was a really good one. I know I just talked about Vienna. That one I think was like $17. So more expensive doesn't mean better. And cheapest, of course, doesn't usually mean better. But it just depends on what country you're into, because some countries just are cheaper in general. So like Greece, everything just is on a cheaper scale. But a place like Italy, everything was more expensive because lots of people go to Italy, so they can charge more. So Rome was like $20, even though it was totally not worth it. And Budapest was $13, and it was way nicer than Rome. So you just kind of have to go, look at a few different hostels and see what the general like price range is, so that you know if you're being ripped off or not. And as always, you can ask me any questions that you might have. I can only give you information on places that I've been, but I can also help you out too, because I'm really familiar with the websites that I used. So anyway, hopefully this was a little bit helpful. It's going to be a little light on the pictures. We didn't just snap pictures of every single hostel we stayed in. Maybe we did. I don't know. I'll have to look. But next time we'll talk about Prague, and I will see you guys later.